know, I realized something the other day. I don't know if I've told you yet. I misnumbered our episodes.
Really?
And I'm not sure where I misnumbered them because I realized that like this episode or the episode next week is going to be 52, and there's that many weeks in a year, but we started this in December. So I mean, there might have been a leap year in there, but I don't think that would account for missing
An
that much,
extra
an
many
extra
weeks.
2-3 weeks worth of
Um,
episodes. So I messed up the counting somewhere.
that sucks. So that means I messed up on the YouTube things.
We're just gonna pretend that I didn't, and I'll
We're just
just
gonna
be
pretend that we've already done a year. Yes.
congratulations us.
Congratulations.
So would you trust getting the COVID vaccine if they were to give you the shot, say mid-December?
I trust the vaccine just from like the nerd standpoint of it. I'm not like afraid that it's gonna go horribly awry, but at the same time, I don't want to be a guinea pig for the first general population of people getting it. I will take it, like get the shot eventually, but like when it comes around in like January, February, so it's like, oh, okay. Well, we've known now after 30 days your eyes pop out. So it's just like, okay, well, it's a good thing I wasn't the first one to take it. So that way, round two, I don't have to worry about my eyes popping out. What about you?
I would, however, the
I feel like you might
discussion
feel the different.
now the discussion now is who should get it first, whether it's like healthcare workers, the elderly, things like that. And I
Yeah.
think that I'm not the most in need of it. So, I mean, I totally would, because they have to go through all the testing and all this stuff
Yeah.
and the side effects that they have noticed. I mean, the testing of it hasn't been as long as it usually is, but I mean, we kind of need it. So it's one of those where, okay, it was enough of a trial that nothing bad happened. So I'm at
Yeah. So
least
I'm
fine
like,
with that. But at the same time, I don't think I'll need the vaccine if all the vulnerable people get it. Because if all the vulnerable people get it, then eventually a vaccine will just help you reach herd immunity faster.
yeah, well, that was the whole thing about it. Like last week, we talked about that one company that had a 94% or whatever it was. And then Monday, when the episode released, they said that there's another one that came out that had 95% or something like
Hmm.
that. But they said the one that has 95% is better, not just because of the percent point of view, but it doesn't need to be as cold as the other one.
Yeah, one of
The
them's crazy cold. One of them's like
It's like minus
negative.
68 or
Yeah,
something.
and they're like now everyone's in a rush to make dry ice to be able to transport this stuff because
Yeah,
it's
and it's
so
just like
cold.
again another thing that you didn't think would be a hot commodity. I mean, you can go to the grocery store and buy dry ice, and now it's going to be like rationing dry ice for. Although I don't feel like it's going to be as big of a problem because how many times you use dry ice? I mean, I remember using it once in like elementary school when they made witch's brew, and there was this one time in high school where this dumb girl made a dry ice bomb,
That makes sense.
and that's the extent of like me using and being around dry ice. So it's like also I didn't realize vaccines need to be that cold for them to work. Not that they need to be room temperature, but I
I
assumed it
always
was like
assumed they were. As I mean, like I know they kept them in like fridges and stuff. So
yeah,
yeah, not they don't just like keep them in the shelf next to the toilet paper.
yeah.
But I didn't think that like they would have to be transported in such crazy conditions of. Well, I guess people refrigerate their insulin. I just never really thought about it.
Yeah, I mean it's just something you don't think about. It's just like every time, I mean, I don't ever see the nurses like, would you like a flu shot? And then they come back with like a little shot or the little vial thing. And then even when they put it in you, when you have anything injected to you for the most part, you can feel it in your body like entering because it's not the same temperature as your body. It's usually colder or warmer and stuff like that. That's why it's like you can feel it when it's inside you, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure who's going to get the first vaccines, but watch that be a problem. And then not enough people of color are going to get it. And then that's going to start another, another thing.
Yes, I do. I don't know. I feel like elderly people should get it because they're the ones that are most at risk, or like people that are like really high risk, whether it's like they just got done with a heart surgery or whatever it is that would compromise their immune system or asthma really bad. But at the same time, it's like it's good to give it to them, like the elderly people, just in case there's something bad with it. They're already towards the end of their life. That does sound bad, but it's like on the other hand, if you give it to all the young people that are the reason why it's so bad and so shitty is because people just like are constantly moving around, you can give it to them and don't have to worry about people dying as much because at the same time, how many young people visit elderly people a lot? So
And
it's
you
just
don't
like,
want a young zombie.
yeah. So I'm like, I'd rather have an old zombie. He makes a good point. I'm like, I'd rather have a young zombie on this so I don't have to, I can outrun an old one that's in a walker, but at this one that's going full speed, that's my age, at the beginning of the year, I would have said yes. Now I would have been like, who's the closest person to me and how much do I care about them?
It's I mean, you know what they never talk about in zombie movies? They never discuss how long it would take for them to starve to death. Everything has to eat, especially
Yeah.
zombies. They never say like in The Walking Dead. You would think that like, oh yeah, eventually the zombies would die because they don't
Yeah.
eat. But that never happens.
That is true. I know that they have like a slower immune system, not immune system, but a slower like aging system because they're already dead. I mean, they like the zombies are dead. They will die again even if they do have enough like brains or skin or whatever the hell it is they eat, because it's like they're a dead organism that's just waiting to die again. So I don't. It's a good thing to ponder.
You know, one thing that never really made sense is the video game that you ruined for me, The Last of Us Part 2. Um, I
Yes.
never understood like why, or I guess I can't remember why there's zombies in that game.
I honestly don't remember them going into too much detail.
They
Like I
kind of
know
just
it.
like spoilers in the first one, guy they the zombies happen and like that's how the first game starts. So it starts with the zombies already invading whatever city that the main guy lives in, and then yada yada yada. They get in a car crash. Like they're trying to drive away from the city. They get in a car crash in the city. Typical kind of thing happens, and then it's like fast forwards years later, and the zombies are still there. It just doesn't make much
Yeah, I don't
sense
know
why
because
the zombies are there.
like I have it. I got it when I got the PlayStation 4. Like it gave me like the remake or like the upscaled edition or
Mm,
whatever it is. And I do remember that there are certain levels where you're supposed to avoid the spores,
yeah.
and a lot of the zombies aren't like brains. They're like they look like fungus or something like that. So they're like maybe it has to do with some kind of mushroom type of thing. But that is that's another thing. Wonder what you ponder about. Well, it's zombies apparently.
That reminds me, I did start a list, and I was off this past week, so I didn't have as much time to add to this list. See if I can pull it up. Questions I ask myself while driving, and I'm gonna start asking you
I
these
have one.
questions.
I have one for you.
What's yours for me?
If you can travel to any point of time, what would it be and why? Jessica brought this up. That was a question for her brother's entry to college exam. And then I gave two examples that were better than all four of theirs.
I would travel to. It's hard because anywhere I'd go that's not that long ago, I'd be a slave. I don't I don't know. Do I transform, or do I transform? Do I teleport and then I'm not a slave?
Why are you so fixated on being a slave?
I don't want to be a
Just,
slave is my point.
I don't want you to be a slave either. No, just
um
picture you had the DeLorean for like 20 minutes and you went 88 miles an hour. your flux capacitor didn't break, and then you're just sitting there watching people from a distance. This isn't one of those like butterfly effects where they see you, the whole universe blows up. This is just like you're
I
there, you're
would
watching something for 20 minutes, and then you just come back.
I would go to the testing center where they tested the first atom bomb when they split the first atom.
Why?
Because that's where, what was that doctor's name? Whatever that
That
doctor's
made
name
a
was.
microwave.
No. um he he had this really chilling, he quoted this I believe the I have to look this up, but I randomly have been fascinated. I get fascinated by really random things, like just at work, and then I just start thinking about it, and then I research it on my break and stuff like that. Who discovered? Okay, Robert Oppenheimer. That's right. So, um, so I guess my answer to your question would be July 16th, 1945, in Alamogordo, New Mexico. And he quoted the whatever he quoted, but it was some, I believe, Indian saying or scripture that was he's like, I have become death, the destroyer of worlds. He said like the most like
That's heavy.
chilling, like the
That's
most
heavy.
chilling
Yeah,
say, you know that
the
Linkin
Baba
Park
Lakita.
album. Yes.
Yeah,
The
the
you know that
Hindu,
Linkin Park album,
Yeah.
A Thousand Suns, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple tracks talking while they do like an instrumental in the background. They use him as
Oh, I
the
didn't know it was
talking
his
voice.
voice.
Yeah, so he does like the most people laughed, most people cried, most people were
Yeah.
silent. That's the Oppenheimer
Okay.
guy. But I would go then because
Oh.
I would want to see or feel the room when he discovered that just he
Ended
might have just
humanity.
invented the downfall of humanity.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy just because it's one of those. We talked about it with James, I think, that Utah has somehow it leaked. I don't know what it was from, but like Utah is home to a lot of uh, warheads that are around. I mean, it makes sense. Utah is a big desert area. Like if you're outside of Salt Lake, you're nothing but desert and that kind of thing. So it's like there's big places of land that are just empty, and then with the push of a button, it's just like, and also because there is a presidential safe house in, oh, I don't remember. It's like the Tetons or something like that. It's between Utah, Idaho, Colorado, and California, like one of those mountain ranges where it's like they built it into the bunker, or they built their bunker into the actual mountainside because it's almost impossible to break through without a drill, and they have all this like steel, so it's easy to put a steel wall in front of something instead of like having to build a whole dome around it, which it's supposed to be amazing. I mean, at least enough to survive a nuclear holocaust.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's really just like yeah, that's I really just want to feel. So the quote is, so his quote starts, I remembered from the line of the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him, takes on his multi-armed form and says, now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. I suppose we all thought that one way or another. And he said that's what went through his mind when they hit the button and it just split the first atom. And then I'm like, well, that's extremely chilling considering then a little bit later that month or that year, they just
Yeah,
blew up two cities.
they used it to end a war. So, and then it's never been used again. And
What
I'm
was
pretty sure
yours that was what was
next time
yours that
it's
was
used, it's
better than your college educated wife?
I had two just in case. I had a fallout, or I had a backup question just in case. My first one was I want to be there the day the dinosaurs died. Like 10 minutes or the 20 minutes, like watching them and then watching the asteroid hit the Earth
Like to see if they can comprehend what's about to happen.
to see what's going to happen, to see what they look like, to see how they act, to see how the thing was, because Jurassic Park is not how dinosaurs look. People don't understand how dinosaurs look. They're just like giving representations of what they think they might look like. And now they're saying they might have had feathers. So it's like, I would like to see what the dinosaurs look like. and I just wanted to see if it really was an asteroid that hit everything and how that looked, and then just how everything was afterwards, or I guess just enough to the point of impact, and then I would come back. But if I had to get hurt, I wouldn't go there. If I got hurt, or if I didn't have to get hurt, or if I got hurt and I died, then I would choose to go to Egypt to watch them build the pyramids so I could see how they did it.
How do you think they did it?
I'm assuming they did it by just slave strength. Everyone has these like crazy alien things and everything like that, but I'll be real with you. There's a lot of shit you can do if you have just pure muscle power doing it. Lots of people died, and you know what? They talk about it in the Bible, and they just like, yeah, they worked them till they're dead and they pushed them aside. They were pushing these big ass blocks all the way across the country to this desert, and then they had to push them all the way up.
I feel like
And that
everyone's
was it.
thing with that is like, I've never seen them. Like, I don't know like a reference point in person of like how big the bricks are or anything like that. So I feel like,
Yeah.
because I have the same thought process. I'm like, yeah, they
Yeah.
probably just had some kind
Yeah.
of
I'm
way,
like,
like they thought of aqueducts so they can transport water without it getting
yeah.
dirty above their heads.
Yeah.
So it's like they were smart,
Yeah.
but
That's what I don't understand. I'm
like
like,
there's mummies that still exist
yeah.
because of how smart they were.
Yeah. It's just,
So I feel like
I
I
don't
have to see it in
understand.
person for them to and then be like, yeah, you know what? I don't think you could do that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
But
I don't, I mean, maybe, I guess maybe an alien did it. I don't know. I mean, I do think they exist, but it's like, why would a species far more advanced than us pick up bricks and blocks and stack them nicely for us?
maybe they did it
And
to show them that they could.
that's just a weird flex.
I
But it's just
mean,
like, I just have a hard time believing that aliens came and did this. If I was an alien civilization, based off of what I know about how humans are to other humans, it's like if we're stronger than you, we will wipe you out. So we don't have to worry about dealing with you later. Kind of
but
like
you
Mass
also have to
Effect.
keep in mind that that's a human characteristic.
That's true. I mean, they do have that, but it's just like I would either wipe you out or see how smart you are, and then use you guys as slaves. That would be my
Maybe
two
that's
thought
what they're
process for it.
gearing to. I mean, yeah, it's one of those where, yeah, that would be very interesting to get that answer to, because yeah, the whole dinosaur thing, there's people like, yeah, they're now speculating that they actually would still be alive if the asteroid never hit the earth. They said that
Yeah.
like everything was fine, just the only
Yeah,
what
it
killed
was the
them was the
perfect
asteroid hitting
ecosystem
them.
for them. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like we would be alive. I mean, swap places real quick. It's just like, okay, we would have been alive and then the dinosaurs would have came. So it's like
Better
just
than me.
because alien life exists doesn't mean it has to take form of a humanoid or like the little green alien or the little ET guy. It can look like a dinosaur because dinosaurs are technically aliens to us. They were here way before us.
A alligator's a dinosaur.
That's true. Did you see that one that was on the news? It was like this 20-foot gator or something like that.
I did not.
It was just like just walking on this like golf course, and I'm like, that's the reason why I don't live in Florida.
That's so
That's a
freaking
fucking
scary.
dinosaur.
I
That's
know.
a fucking
I'm like, I've seen the video, like when you see like the amateur videos of them like attacking something,
Oh yeah,
you're
like
like,
that
oh
one I
my
showed you where
god.
they jumped the fence. It was
Yeah.
just like stupid gator. You can't get it. It's like I'm like, whoa.
They just like gecko up that
Yeah.
bitch.
I'm like the only thing I've always just ran as fast as I can in a straight line, and that's usually got me out of trouble. But I think with an alligator, since they don't have like big maneuverable joints, I think the best thing to do would be like zigzag. So
Yeah,
it can't like
like a bull.
yeah. So I mean, because alligators are probably really fast on land. They're not like a cheetah or something, but they're fast enough to like just grab and like kind of. But I don't know. Before we veer too far off this topic, because this is already a weird tangent that's went into another tangent to a dinosaur, living dinosaur tangent. But also birds are considered dinosaurs. But uh, I think this is the tallest pyramid right now is 455 feet. The Eiffel Tower is 984 feet. So
But also the pyramids are built like a pyramid, so
yeah,
it makes sense that like humans could build that with a base,
yeah, and
next
I'm like,
layer,
you just have
next
a
layer.
bigger bottom and then just slowly go up. That's why I don't. That's why I'm like, I picture a lot of people dying, and it's just like, I don't know. Back to the whole alien thing. It's just like every civilization out there has used the stars to track more than what they thought stars would do, and it's just like people always assume just of the Mayans and like early pilgrims and like people in Egypt were just dumb. But I'm like, the Egyptians discovered like that they use that abacus to like do math with it. And the Mayans used the stars to predict like the not the future, but like how the days are going to be and stuff like that. They've made the calendar and all this other stuff. And it's
You,
just,
you know, Shia LaBeouf never steered me wrong before,
it's true.
and he used the pyramids to get Transformers.
That's also true.
You ever
Point break,
thought
he
of?
did it.
Have we ever thought that maybe Optimus Prime did it?
I would not be upset if Optimus Prime was the transfer was an alien that I had to like. I like, dude, I love you.
Father,
They're like, Autobots, roll out. I'd be
do the
like, oh my
thing,
god,
do
oh
the
my god,
thing.
oh my god, oh my god.
So let me throw this question at you. The Last of Us is coming to HBO. This much we
Yes,
know. Who
yes.
would you get to play the main character? What is the main character? What is his
Joel.
name? Joel, that's right. Who would you get if you can have any actor in
Hmm.
Hollywood? Who would you get to play Joel?
Um, the two that are coming to my mind right now is like Timothy Olyphant because he kind of has that like weathered cowboy but still really cool look. And the second dude is John Bernthal because John Bernthal is he's a relatively short actor compared to like today's. I mean, when you think of actors, it's like Thor, the Hemsworth brothers that are like 6'3" and 6'5", and like everyone else is like over 6 feet. That's an actor, but it's like John Bernthal's like 5'10", maybe 6 feet, something like that. So he's like a relatively normal looking sized person. And the whole video game concept is like Joel is like he's not a tall person, and
He's just a normal guy.
he's just a normal dude, but he's built like John Bernthal.
Mm,
So it's like I would have him be Joel. Who would you pick?
I was thinking Mr. Elephant, but John Bernthal makes a lot of sense. I would
Yeah,
probably choose
and
him if you wanted it to be a little more comedy, not necessarily like a laugh, like just a comedy show, but like action comedy kind of.
yeah.
I would pick Elephant, but if you're going like more of the drama fighting, then I would go with John
Who would
because
you pick
it's
for what's her name? Is her name like
Ellen,
Ellen?
not Ellen. We don't talk about her anymore. She's a mean gay.
I
We
never
don't
talked
talk
about
about mean
I never
gays.
talked about her. So
I don't know who would we get. Who's the? I don't know any young actors because I mean, young like she's 14 in The Last of Us. So who does she even look like is the main question because Joe kind of looks like John Bernthal. um,
the only one that's coming to mind is Ellen Page. She's the girl from Juno
could she
and
pass as
Inception.
14?
She's she's a small actress. She is
I think like she could, but they would have to just change
she
the script so that she's not for. I mean,
yeah.
in the game, nothing like the only reason she's 14 in the game is because that's how old Joe's kid would have been.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
there's no significance to the age 14. So
yeah, so
they could
I'm
they would need an
assuming
actress
yeah.
like that though.
I mean, they're not going to hire a 14, but yeah, so there's not too many like young looking actresses
Yeah.
either. So it's like she's the only one I would really come and like that's coming to mind. But if you guys haven't watched or played Among Us, quick spoilers, Matthew's kind of said it. One day, guy wakes up, world's falling apart. He grabs his daughter. They like try to take off and try to follow the crowd and not die. Daughter dies. Time passes, and then this new civilization came out because there's like little outposts throughout the world, and like this right now takes place in one country. It takes place in the US. There are zombies outside the barracks or outside these little military fractions and everything like that, and each military fraction compound are against each other, so they're always fighting for land, just other resources, stuff like that. And if you can try to make your way between each one to try to barter stuff, you can, but for the most part you kind of just stick with your group, because if not, you die either by the zombie mushroom looking things or the actual people from the other tribes. And there's also like the wilderness tribes that like didn't join the military ones that are everywhere. And then you find this one girl, what was her name? Ellie?
Ellie.
You find Ellie, and she doesn't have parents. Her parents died, and she's the same age as the guy's daughter if she was still alive. And these other rogue group of people called the Fireflies, I think, they're trying to find her because she has the cure to this disease to help fix everything. And Joel takes upon like this fatherly role to her, and they travel across the whole US just trying to find and get their way to Colorado, I think. They finally get there after all these different heartaches and hardships, only to find out that the only way to save humanity is by killing her, because in her blood has the weird antidote that can help correct or prevent this from getting farther. And then Joel has to find and have this tough decision where it's like, should I kill her and save all of humanity, or should I just let her live and then try to find a different way? And then the game one ends with them leaving, and he doesn't have her killed. And then they're like running.
They're saying that's what the first that's what they're basing it off of. However,
Yeah.
I know if you were in that position, you would kill your brother for that. So that
No, not
really, because you did. You
not
killed
this.
me to save China. So so don't even say you didn't.
No, that was different. That was different. That was a game, and I told you I already beat it by saving, and I wanted to see what happened if I didn't.
You should have done that the other way and then saved me. But there's no details released on casting yet. It's still in early production. But the executive producer of Chernobyl and Game of Thrones is going to be the executive producer on this.
It's going to be great. It's going to be like what Walking Dead could have been.
So I'm assuming maybe late 2021, early 2022, as bad as that sounds. But before we leave this subject, Uncharted is going to star Tom Holland, and it's set to hit theaters in 2021.
I don't know how I feel about it. I like Tom Holland, but he's too short of an actor to be playing Nathan Drake. And Tom Holland has a different head shape than Nathan Drake.
Yeah, but he's cool.
That's true.
I'm going to watch it just because he's in it.
I would have just picked Jake Gyllenhaal, to be honest. Because Jake Gyllenhaal, again,
fits. Everything should be Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, it's just
he
Jake
was even
Gyllenhaal
a really good Iron
Jake
Man.
Gyllenhaal. Yeah, I mean, he did play Iron Man.
Like he was like in the Spider-Man whatever Homecoming or whatever.
Yeah, he was in Spider-Man Homecoming.
He was
Mysterio,
like a kind of Iron Man trying to take over.
Yeah, he was
Mysterio, he was believable.
So it's like, it was great.
You know what? Let me change my answer for The Last of Us. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Let's give Jake Gyllenhaal but a little salt and pepper in his beard.
Imagine any role that you think of that is you're having a hard time placing. Just think Jake Gyllenhaal and get back to me.
Yeah, I'm like, you get Jake Gyllenhaal. If you don't like that answer, then come back with Ryan Gosling.
Either of the two. Jake Gyllenhaal for serious, Ryan Gosling for funny.
Yeah, so I just Ryan Gosling wouldn't be too bad either. The only problem is he's very thin and he has a really long and pointy face.
You know, now that you say Ryan Gosling, if it's going to be Uncharted, it depends on what kind of humor you want, because Jake Gyllenhaal could be funny, but Ryan Gosling's is the smart ass kind of funny. So if you're looking for more of a smart ass character, because Nathan Drake in Uncharted is both.
Yeah.
Because it's both like super serious and then not as serious at times.
That's true.
You can't go wrong with either actor.
Yeah, so I'm like, you should just hire me in Hollywood and I will give you the casting choices of what you want.
So how often do you use Apple Pay?
I was really against it. Just because I have a credit card and I don't like pulling my phone out and just like double clicking and like waiting for it to scan my face and then just like so I don't even really use it now this much now that we have this whole COVID thing. A lot of my credit cards and debit cards have the like the one tap feature. So it's like and that is it does FaceTime and it literally doesn't require any battery. I can even leave my card in my wallet and I'm like, I wonder which one it's gonna pick. Done.
I use it a lot more ever since lockdown started. But how would you feel if Apple joined a bunch of banks and teamed up to make a mega bank?
I feel like that's a monopoly.
Well, guess what Google's doing? Google's revamping their pay. And one big thing that they're doing is they're also, much like Apple did, they're going to start their own credit card thing, but they're going to also work with other credit card companies.
Yes, I was reading a little bit about that. The big thing about that, I mean, if you have Google Pay, that's just like everyone has Google Pay, then Apple Pay is right behind it, still in some places, but it's not as widely acceptable as Google. Plus, Google has like these other features that like the invisible magnetic strip, so you don't have to worry about like even if it doesn't have the touch to pay, you can still like do the swiping motion with your phone and it will register it, which I don't understand how that sorcery works. But a big thing I did notice is you can get Google Pay on Android and iOS. So it's like you don't have to worry before all these other you either have Apple Pay and everything is through Apple Pay or you have Google Pay because you have Droid and it's just like honestly Google Pay is probably the better bet because it's accepted more places than Apple Pay. But right now it's just like maybe I'll download it. I don't know. I already have like PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, uh some other random ass ones and stuff like that. So it's like honestly, I barely use them. Like I have a Venmo and PayPal, and that's usually when people send me money. Like if I send them money for whatever reason, whether it's like gas, groceries, buying someone lunch, and then they send it back to me like that. That's how I use it. But other than that, like when I buy shit online, I use Apple Pay because it just
Mm,
has my cards
me
already
too.
plugged into it. So it's like, what about you? How would you feel about switching over to the Google bandwagon for your?
I
Did you,
wouldn't
did you already have
because
it?
I don't have Google Pay now because I have an iPhone.
I know, but
And
didn't you have it when you had a Droid?
no, I never used it.
Oh,
Just because I just stand by. I don't think that it's secure. I don't think it's as secure as Apple's because Apple's never had an issue with security with
yeah,
any kind of thing. So I don't trust Google's apps because
that's fair.
they're not the whole platform's just not as secure. They are so basically they're taking away Android Pay and
Yeah,
extending Google Pay to just be on all Android phones and all that stuff. So
which
they're
is
essentially just getting
yeah,
rid
it's
of
great.
Android Pay to do that.
Which will also help with security reasons because there's no reason why to have Samsung Pay and then OnePlus Pay and what other Motorola Pay and stuff like
Mm.
that. It's just too much work for developers to be doing. I mean, that's their job, but it's like honestly, why can't we just put our focus on one thing like Apple? Why can't we just have one uniform form of payment through all of Droid?
Yeah, so it's I mean I wouldn't get it. I would rather like you said like go through PayPal or Venmo, but
Yeah,
I mean most people like more likely than not if you have an iPhone then some like you're going to talk to somebody else with an iPhone. iPhones are just more
yeah,
popular.
yeah,
Especially at least in the States they are. It's more common to see it be like oh yeah, well I can just Apple Pay you because you already have it like you already have an
yeah.
iPhone. But yeah, if I have to pay somebody, they'd rather just use PayPal or Venmo rather than download Google Pay because it's like, oh yeah, already have a PayPal set up for like if I do something specific, then I have a PayPal already set up.
That's true. Do you shit, you were talking about that, and I totally just spaced what I was. Never mind. If it comes to me, I'll think about it, or I'll think about it. If it comes to me, I'll let you know.
But I wanted to finish talking because so the PS5 came out.
Yes.
And as we know, there's been nothing but issues because this was rushed. Where there's been nothing but issues with everything that has been rushed. The only thing that I haven't heard
Yeah.
any issues about is the new Spider-Man. But that's because they were working on this forever, and they were probably already had it set in stone and only had minor fixes leading up to the quarantine. But it seems
Yes.
like the new Call of Duty has gotten nothing but like flack.
Flack. That's
And
weird.
the PS5 is running into so many issues, whether it's like and Xbox, whether they're running into issues of people. I mean, some of it's not their fault. People are blowing vape smoke into their Xbox or PS5s and it's
Yeah.
breaking them.
Yeah.
But other things are like, yeah, they're overheating. They're going like a lot more than usual. But PS5 is running an issue with their 4K HDR.
Yes, they're I just I wish I mean no one knew the global impact that this was going to have. I remember when I was talking to dad in January, like the end of January, beginning of February, when I went up there to go visit grandpa for a sec. And like Kirsten and dad and Megan and everything. But I went up there and we went to a couple of bars and we were just like talking. And then they were like, "Did you hear stuff about this coronavirus?" And then at the same time, it was like this, everyone was calling it a flu. So we were like, yeah, it's like this flu that originated in like China. It's not going to be that big of a deal because we had the swine flu like 10 years ago, blah, 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 and stuff like that. And then uh, a few months later, like Japan and China were saying like there's going to be a severe shortage of sensors for cameras due to COVID. And I'm like, oh no, it's going to be bad if there's going to be that kind of like repercussions on that, just because I'm really big into cameras, but it's like those countries are the global exporters of tech and stuff like that, and it's like Sony makes the majority of camera sensors on the market, whether it's for their phones or other people's phones and just like other random things. It's just like Sony has so much stuff in other stakes of company, and like so does Canon. It doesn't just revolve just around cameras itself. It's like, oh, okay, well, what other things does Sony have? I mean, they have cameras, they have tech, they have just like big ass TVs, and it's just like once you know that stuff is coming to a halt, it's just gonna be like, oh shit. If they're gonna be feeling it like those big top 1% companies, everyone else is gonna be feeling it just as bad. So it's like, I wish they would have just pushed this whole launch back. Just shit, you could have waited a year. You could have dropped it in June. I mean, it's just like just to wait, and it was anyways, long tangent. They're having problems because they're not doing 1440 when they advertise that, and they're not doing 120 FPS like they're advertising. Xbox is the stronger console, and at launch, it can do 1440, and it does do 120 FPS. And it's like it even upscales the lower games that are like just an older Fusion Frenzy can get like higher frame rates than HDR,
Hmm.
even though HDR wasn't even invented back when that game first came out. And it was just crazy that we're at this point in technology. But they're saying the reason why it's like this is because Sony originally didn't want backwards compatibility with their systems. If you're on Team Sony, you know that thing sucks. I mean, at the same time, you understand it from a business point of view. It's like, why would I create a new system to sell you guys for this amount of money if I'm going to make the same games that can play on the new system on the old system? We're not going to get any money, and you're not going to be spending it. And if you do spend it, they're going to be like, why the hell did I spend $600 for something like this? And the problem is, it's just like they made the games already for PS4, and then PS5 they have to build them from the ground up. So it has to be completely ported over. Whereas with Xbox, they can do a small, quick patch, and
Yeah.
then it just like Xbox is already uniform, so it's like all of their games can just seamlessly work with each other outside of Xbox or on PC and stuff like that. Where again, it's just like PlayStation's like we only play with ourselves, and we kind of play with you guys because Fortnite and Warzone.
Yeah, it's I from everything that I've read about it, they're gonna try to fix it through a patch, because
Yeah, I'm
they're
like,
saying that one big thing that they can do is, I guess, the way that it's porting over, if you especially if you run it through like a, what's the word, entertainment system where it
Yeah.
has like multiple input channels and stuff like that. They're saying maybe that's playing a role in it, but that can't be the only that
Yeah, no,
that
yeah.
doesn't make sense. Why they're okay? Well, then why isn't this console doing
Yeah, I'm like,
this?
this whole
Like,
thing, you said this. And they, at the very end, like when I was reading this article, they were saying, this is only a problem right now because we're in this weird cross generational gap where it's like a lot of it probably has to do too with, I mean, it is the whole native porting over from like this game to the new console game,
mhm.
but it's like cross save. I bet it would be super easy to just like, oh yeah, it can we can make it here and we can make it work here. But you don't get the saves that were on here. So it's like we want you guys to have the best experience, and they're saying patches will fix things eventually. Due to COVID, we're not in office as much, and we have to work remotely and stuff like that, and dealing with all the security issues with that. But it's like after this thing starts slowing down, things going back to normal again, we will have everything set right as rain. And it's just right now at launch, we can't offer that kind of stuff at this exact moment. And at the same time, it was just like I was reading this article on Twitter and this tweet this guy put, and it's like PlayStation can't do this, and it's like on the other hand, Xbox can do all everything that the PlayStation can't, but people are still preferring to play PlayStation over Xbox because of exclusives. So again, it's just like,
Yeah.
well, damn. I guess I do want to play a dumbed down system or something that can't do something as well as the new, like the better system in this case. And it's like, because there's no games for it. I mean,
Well,
it's just
that's what is like exclusives of, and like we've talked about before, exclusives have always played a big enough role that like you would go with wherever the exclusives were.
yeah,
And Xbox doesn't necessarily have as many exclusives anymore because not as many people care to play Halo than when it first came out, because now
yeah.
it's like
There's other games.
now there's like 6 or 7 Halos. You're kind of tired
Yeah,
of the story. You need something new to
yeah,
revamp it. And the I think PlayStation's really the only one that has anything noteworthy, and it's to the point where the consoles are going to start being like cell phones.
yeah,
Like you have the newest iPhone, the Pro Max, and I have an XR because I would never use the extra settings.
yeah,
Like we were talking about last time, I of my 64 gigs, I only have like 40 of them used because it's like, yeah, I don't use my phone for that. But when it comes to like gaming, like I have my like $1,200 setup and you have your PS4. So it's like the whole kind of like mix match of like it just
yeah,
depends on what you'd want. Like if you're wanting those specs, you're not necessarily going to buy an Xbox, you're probably going to buy a PC.
yeah,
And then if you're getting a console, you most people don't even have a TV that's 120 hertz.
yeah. And like you would need a special TV, like
I mean,
a TV you buy at Best Buy, like a family TV. It will do that, but it's going to cost a lot more.
and you're not like if I were to put it on my TV, you wouldn't even notice if it was doing
Yeah,
120. Like my 4K is like I think 60 or 75.
yeah,
So it's like it would say it's doing it, but you wouldn't notice it because the TV can't refresh that fast. The
yeah. It's like
Xbox could do it, but yeah, it's like it would still you wouldn't notice.
yeah. That's where it's. I keep coming to this dilemma because I've been hunting like crazy. I'm like, I'll buy a PlayStation right now, have the cash. I'll buy an Xbox, I have the cash. Honestly, whichever one comes up first is probably what I would be getting. And I can't find any of them anywhere. And at the same time, it's like, well, it's like $500 for the Xbox or PlayStation, depending on like what model for the PlayStation you get. But it's also like, well, if you pay $100 extra, you can get an entry level PC.
Mm,
You do have to buy uh, a monitor, but that's pretty much it. Most like entry level like $600 PCs come with at least a keyboard and a mouse. It's just
mine
like,
did.
yeah, it's just like whatever company you get it from. And it's like, and then you can upgrade later if you want to or stuff like that. But it's just like, well, damn, I can just save up another $100 and just buy a, a, a gaming computer. But at the same time, you just
Even
have to
if
deal
you
with
like,
all your
even if you build it yourself, you can build something really good for $600.
yeah. I'm like, you can build a next gen killer for $600. You could probably even build it for 500
Mhm.
bucks. So I'm like, I've seen people like these people I follow on YouTube that built. I think it was like a $500 gaming computer, but they didn't put a fan in it, and it was like the way they built it and the way they had like the case and everything, it had enough ventilation where they don't need a fan in the so I don't have to worry about cooling it. So it's like so they spent more money on like the motherboard and like
Mhm.
other things like that. So it's like I could do that.
Yeah, I feel like the consoles are just going to go that way of like they're going to keep trying to pump all these things into it, but it's going to be a moot point because I mean Xbox has proved that they can, but to be fair, they also have the whole PC thing of where they're like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
used to doing this, we know what we're doing. Where PS4 is like, there's a reason that they have such an interesting design
Yeah.
because to me their ventilation probably isn't the best either compared to an Xbox because every time I've like every Xbox I've owned, it's never been as loud as a PS3.
Yeah, it's never, I mean, PS3, even that PlayStation, like I can hear my PS4 Pro in my headphones, like on my mic when I'm like rewatching my streams
Mm.
sometimes to like see just the quality of stuff. And I can hear it's like,
Yeah, so it's
and
yeah, I
it's just
mean,
like,
I feel like that's gonna be I feel like they're gonna run into a few issues in their generational jump because they have a lot of products, but none of them are as focused as this. Like a TV isn't going to run nearly as hot or as hard as a
yeah,
PS4 just because that's not a TV is just a screen,
yeah, it's
relays
just
what's
a,
plugged into
yeah,
it. The PS4 is having to process, it's having to do all these things. So what I'm thinking is the main reason people are still buying it and don't really care is because they're not going to notice. Like me with my
yeah,
iPhone, I don't care to upgrade because I'm not
yeah,
going to
that's what it,
notice if the new phone did a higher refresh rate, I wouldn't notice because when
yeah.
I'm on my screen watching 720 on YouTube, as I started in 720p, I don't really notice because it's a small screen. To me, that's how it's supposed to look. It looks better than it did
Yeah,
my
I'm like, it
last
looks
phone. That's
fine
really
because you're condensing the pixels. Yeah, it's just like I honestly feel this is the last generation for consoles. Just PC has exploded. I mean, console gaming has had a big resurgence, but that's just due to COVID. People are just inside buying shit like crazy. That's the reason why we are where we are right now. But it's like if PlayStation and Xbox want to continue this, like just being the leaders of this new generation, they're gonna have to. What sounds weird is I have so many ideas because I've been thinking about this for a while. They either have a modular PC that we talked about on stream the other day, or if, do you remember the portable PS, not the PSP, but there was like this PSTV thing? It was like a little puck that was like $100 that you can like plug into your TV and you can play like games
yes.
through it. If they had something like that that can plug into your PC and you had access to the PlayStation library, that's something that can help shoot them and continue them being a gaming leader. So it's like you have a PC, but you have the Sony exclusives on this thing that you're streaming through whatever to your PC, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Almost like an emulator, but not an emulator. It's just like Sony's making this. You can play the games instead of buying it from Steam or from Stream or whatever the other ones are. You buy the PlayStation games only through the PlayStation market on PC. And it's
I
like,
feel like the only way they would do that without having to cut Microsoft in would be if they start making PCs.
yeah. So I'm like, that's why I'm like, if they, even if their consoles were just modular, they're still considered consoles, but they're PCs because they're modular and you can take things out. Like if you want 120 FPS, you need to buy this graphical extension pack, and you just plug it in like a Lego piece. And it's like, oh, you want more hard drive space, kind of like with the Xbox did with the 360. You take the top piece off and then you put the bigger top piece on. Or it's just like if you want it to
Yeah.
be quieter, you put these bigger fans in it, just like a PC. So it's like we don't want to scare off like parents, like parent buyers of like, well, I don't want to buy this because my kid. It's just like, okay. It's not a PC. It is, but we're calling it a console. It's a interchangeable console, whatever the hell they're going to call it.
That's like the hard part is, I mean, they either have to start making their own computer parts, or they're going to have to go on the way of the PC, or it's not going to work. I mean,
Yeah,
they'll
I'm like
still
they're
get
gonna
sales for it, but they're not going to be the
yeah.
leader anymore.
Yeah, I'm like they're
It'll
not gonna be
just
the leader,
be,
and you're just gonna fall by the wayside like
yeah,
Sega
because
and Atari. So it's like,
all the major players are going toward gearing towards PC. Like, look at
yeah,
the new RTX, the new, I mean, Intel Core processors. They're not going to worry about a PS5. They're going to say, no, we want to make it for the computers,
yeah,
because everybody uses a computer. Like, you can do
yeah,
work on it. You could do, like, we use it for
yeah,
business. We use it for gaming. And it's like, oh yeah, the a PS4 is just for video games. So you
yeah.
don't,
PlayStation can just play video games. It
yeah,
does it well, but it does. And then
they're like,
Xbox, that's where they
our
tried to
processing
like,
power should be worth more
yeah,
than just a video game. So they're going to worry about it
yeah,
for a computer as opposed to consoles. So
yeah.
fingers crossed. Let us know if you get an Xbox next gen or a PS5 before Tony, and then send him a
Gloat.
picture of it.
A picture of you just like flipping me off with your controller and the new console.
That'd be so
Bitch.
great.
Also,
That's
let
what.
us know what you would go back in time to. If you want to use the ones that
Yes.
we picked, that's fine. That's cool, but be original and come up with your own ideas.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
I was
stop
going to
stealing my
tell you,
ideas.
Jessica's and Sam's and Trey.
Oh yes.
Uh, or Trey said, these are all my brother-in-laws and my wife. Trey, my brother-in-law, the third oldest one, um, he went on a mission to Italy and he speaks fluent Italian, and he will let you know that all the time. I love the guy, but literally he will start talking to you in Italian and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you knew.
The
Oh,
mozzarella.
sorry. Yeah, he'll correct you on your Italian." But he said something like he would go see this something opera and he was saying it in Italian, and Jessica was like, "Oh, good. The Italians here." And everyone like laughed because he does it all the time, and it was just funny, and he got all sad and butthurt. And then Sam or Jessica said she would want to see the Berlin Wall breaking, like the fall of the Berlin Wall. And I was like, why? And she was saying all this stuff. I'm like, I know, but you can see that on YouTube. There's video footage of this
That's
on YouTube.
that's actually true.
And she's like, I didn't think about that. And I'm like, plus, we watched Atomic Blonde and the Berlin Wall fell in that movie. And she was like, no, I feel dumb. And then Sam said that he wanted to watch, or he would like to go and see them land on the moon. And I'm like, hello, dumbass. Didn't you watch like the Rocket X from Tesla at the beginning of the summer when they flew? I mean, they didn't go to the moon, but it went to space. And I'm like, plus, the moon landing is probably on YouTube.
I
I'm
honestly
like,
think
just
it
like,
is.
I'm like, we're in the best generation of everything. We have the everything at our fingertips. Just like the University of YouTube is just, you can literally watch anything, and you could talk to anyone on any continent as long as they have like access to the internet and reliable internet. You can do video, or you can message with somebody, or you can like send pictures. Like if you went to Alaska, I can still message you and talk to you on a video call,
Yeah.
especially if Tesla or if Elon Musk does that like SpaceX or whatever it is,
Starlink.
his satellite system, and gets in like the gigabit internet or whatever it is like for free. Yeah, that's going to be even more interconnected than we've ever been before. So it's just like, that's why I was just like, and I told them mine, and I'm like, I really thought you guys were going to pick something different.
You guys picked things that you can literally see right now.
Yeah, and I was like, I mean, the moon landing was in. I'm not trying to like deplay or anything. I'm just like, it's a cool thing that happened. We beat Russia, and we're never going to stop it. We have a rover up there with the keys in it. Why? Because we're one of the few countries that's ever been there, so we don't have to worry about someone stealing it. But it's just like, back to the whole Tesla thing. They're reusing rockets. I mean, I know we talked about it before, but they're reusing rockets. They're flying it up, and it can land back on the same
Hmm.
pad it took off on. Instead of before, it's like we fire this big rocket, like on Toy Story, into the sun, and then we just like did some math to make sure we fired at this exact spot. to get to the
So that way
moon.
it doesn't fall on someone.
Yeah, so it doesn't fall, and make sure it falls in the ocean, and then we never see it again. That
Yeah.
was a fun waste of tax money. And then they're just like, you know what? We could put a man on the moon. We can try to. We're going to Mars. We could put Tesla's like roadster on in the a rocket and fire it into space. I'm pretty sure we can build a rocket that can land back. And again, back to today's standards, I think today or like the last few days marked a year since COVID started. It's been less than like a year when they found, or like almost a year when they found a cure
Yeah, because
to COVID.
yeah.
It's just like not you can be your anti-vax, but it's like these eggheads hunkered together and figured out how to beat something. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this. It's like with polio, it killed countless people. There are so many people that are in iron lungs. There's people that were in iron lungs that somehow survived polio, but have like really bad breathing problems, like OZPD
Yeah.
or stuff like that. And it's just like, I mean, they just
Yeah,
technology is
I
awesome,
would never
and
want
it's
to
just like,
live in a different time period, but yeah, to
yeah,
visit, yeah, as
yeah,
long as
like
like
to
if
visit
nothing
and
weird
stuff.
happens, like
Yeah, I'm just like,
I want to go to the 14th century. I go back and all of
yeah,
a sudden, hey there,
yeah, I'm
boy,
like,
you know you can't think for yourself.
yeah, I'm like, or even going to see like the Mayan temples being built
Hmm.
and like seeing how a day in the life of like the Mayan culture, or even Vikings. It was just like to see how they actually. I mean, historians are just like basing their knowledge off of what they've learned from other people. It's just like another form of storytelling, and it's just like, okay, but we don't actually know how they were really, and like we have these ideas of how things were. We found out how to decipher their language, but it's just like we still don't exactly. I mean, you can read it, but if you're reading someone, you're not actually seeing it yourself to
Hmm.
see how people act. So I don't know. That's enough deep knee for right now.
All right. Well, then I'll think of more things I can random questions. Oh, I never asked you my random
Oh
question.
yeah.
Let's end on my random
Okay. Well,
question.
and we're gonna end on this for
um,
serious.
let's see. Let me see if I can remember. So I've been thinking of these because I spend a lot of time driving at work and I get bored, so I talk to myself. How many middle school kids do you think you could beat up in a row?
Does
Like,
gender
like
and weight?
they like the I
Like
mean
the
like within reason, like there's not going to be like some future Heisman winner. Just think of like a normal pitcher, a normal set, like not superstar athletic, normal kid, pitcher, normal kid, like Nick, a little bit heavier,
okay.
pitcher that. How many of those do you think, if they surrounded you like in a circle, how many of those do you think you can kick the crap out of?
Do I have access to a weapon?
Oh, you don't have access to a weapon. What do you think this is? A massacre?
I'm just asking. I'm not. I didn't say it was a knife. It could be like pipe.
No, they're just like,
8 to 12,
that's what I was like, I could
possibly more.
like
I might be able to push myself to 17, depending on how pissed off I am, because I'm gonna use that like She-Hulk rage, and just
she,
I have a vision of me picking up like grabbing them by their legs and swinging them like Mario with Bowser, and just like, come here, you idiot, and I'm just swinging this like 150-pound kid, just swinging them around like Mario and just like
mm,
helicoptering all these idiots.
yeah, I was like,
So
I think I can just like the same. I was like, I can probably take like 10 to 12 at a time and it would be like no real problem.
yeah, I'm like I can confidently say 8 to 12 if it's, as long as, yeah, like I said, as long as it's not from someone from like Bountiful area, like where I live, where they're like freakishly large and they're like 7 feet by the time they're like 12.
It's fair.
I'm fairly confident. I thought you were gonna go about those one comments that are like, would you rather fight like with a they cross sizes of animals? It's like, would you rather fight one one duck sized horse, or like 30
One
duck
horse sized
sized
duck.
horses? So it's like, okay, a horse or a duck that's the size of a horse, or would you rather fight like 50 horses
Horse
in the
sized
shape
ducks.
in the size of a duck? And I'm like,
I'd rather fight the horse ducks because they're
yeah, I'm
small
like,
enough that
I
I
don't know,
can
but there's
just kick
50
them.
of them though.
I don't think you know how fast I can kick. All you
I
got to
mean,
do is run away, just start
you don't
stomping
have
on
to
them.
just kick them. You can just like,
Yeah, but you know how hard it is to punch down? I'd rather kick and stomp like I'm making like I'm making wine.
Like I'm refrigerating. Wait.
That's the sound that the horses make while I'm squishing them.
But I thought you were gonna ask a question like that. And
No,
then I
that's
just like,
preposterous. That's absolutely preposterous. Let us know if
how
you
many
would take
ducks you
the
can
the
find.
duck-sized horse. How many ducks can you step on? Let us know.
Not
And
actual
then,
ducks, horse ducks.
so go ahead, follow us on our socials. Madman SLC or Juice Pack Matt for mine. Still got to condense them. And then Juicebox 20 for yours. And also go check out the pod on YouTube if you want to see what we're wearing today.
Yes. No panties.
Oh, God. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Goodbye.